Hey everyone, welcome to the very first episode of Izone's IELTS speaking series. I'm your host, Virai. In this series, we're going to try to find the solution to an IELTS speaking question every week. And as your host, I'll be giving you some of my thoughts on the question, as well as some of my advices on what you should do and what you shouldn't. And of course, beside the sample answer, which might be the only reason why you're here, we'll have some time to look at the vocabulary, which from time to time, I'll throw in some of my favorite words that I think are good for you, or just simply cool to know. But if you're a busy person, which I know you clearly are, having to hunt Pokemon on the street, you can always skip to the sample part by clicking the box below, okay? Are we done now? Let's get it started, shall we? So today our question is a TV program that you really like watching. To be honest, this is a really easy question for me because I used to watch a lot of TV shows back then in the day, so there'd be plenty of options that I could choose from. But if you don't know what to say, then here are the few things that you should consider putting in your answer. First, you need to tell the examiner some basic information about the show. This includes the title, the cast, and the channel where it's aired. You can also mention who introduced you to the show or how you came across it, but my personal advice here is to keep this part short as it's not really important. The next thing to say is what the program is about, which in my own opinion should be the most important part of the speech because there are tons of things to talk about it. For example, if you are talking about a TV series, then the story will be something worth mentioning, and along with that is the character design or developments. You can either talk about the main character or someone that you love in the show. The third hint that the topic gave us is how often do you watch it? Well, personally, I would like to cover this in just one sentence, maybe at the beginning or at the end of the talk. There's not much to say about it, so let's move on. The last thing is why you like watching the program. I would say that this is the second most important part to include in your speech, so be sure to have it, but you can always use it as a conclusion to your answer. The first thing on our list today is the phrase hooked on, which by definition means the same thing as being addicted. But it doesn't necessarily mean something bad all the time, because hooked on can also be used in a more casual way, which means I like doing something so much and I can't stop doing it. Well, it's basically the same, but what I mean here is that you can say I'm hooked on to this song or I'm hooked on to this TV show and no one gonna get you into the rehab because of that. Next, we've got happen to, which is a phrase used to describe events that happen spontaneously, by chance, or in other words, without you expecting it. So for example, if I meet my friend at a cafe without knowing that he would be there earlier on, I could say that I happened to bump into my friend in a cafe. You got that? Third, we have the word clueless, which as you can see by now is the combination of two components. The first one being the main word clue, which means information or evidence, and the second one being the suffix less, which means lack of something. And we combine those two components how we've got the word clueless, which means knowing nothing. Just like a certain character in the certain most famous, most awaited series of the year. Well, you all know what I'm talking about. We all have a Jon Snow in our group of friends, don't we? Coming up next, we've got the word deliberate, which is a quite simple word, meaning you do something intentionally and are fully aware of your own consequences. So next time, if you do something deliberately, be responsible for that, okay folks? And last on the list, you have one of my most favourite synonyms for interesting, fascinating. Fascinating can be directly translated into extremely interesting, so you can safely use these two words interchangeably. But my 2 cents here is when I use the word fascinating myself, the thing that I'm referring to is not only interesting, but it's also surprising to me as well. So that was the end of our vocabulary part today, but keep in mind that this is not the complete list. If you want to get the full access, please go down to the description box below where you can find the link to our website and also our Facebook page so that you can get the latest update of all of our work. There's some great stuff in there made by other people, so I guarantee that you won't be disappointed. Alright, so I've been hooked on this new TV show lately called Rick and Morty, which is a cartoon series for adult audience like South Park or The Simpsons, but with a dark and sci-fi theme to it, so it happens to match what I'm personally interested in. So the story of this series followed the adventure of Rick, a genius scientist who had just returned home after 20 years being away from it, and his grandson, Morty, who is depicted as being insecure and really clueless, which is really fascinating because they are the exact opposite of each other. As I said before, because this show is so rich in this sci-fi element, so it's really common to see Rick and Morty adventure happen somewhere in the other part of the galaxy, or maybe sometimes in a totally different dimension where they can meet their own self, which is really mind-blowing if you ask me. And not just the story that astonished me, I think the developers of the show really nailed on the part of creating the character and how to develop them throughout the series. These worked perfectly with the case of Rick. They have tricked me into believing that Rick is just a horrible person who doesn't care about Morty at all, and that is, he just sees Morty as a tool for him to accomplish his goal. In one episode, Rick even said to Morty that Morty is just his human cloaking device to hide from the government. And I think that really hurt the kid. But in later episodes, I've been able to see how much Rick really cares about Morty. Like in one episode, he sacrifices himself in order to save Morty from being, ripped apart in dimension, which is equivalent to dying. And in other episodes, he's made a sacrifice, an ultimate one, to turn himself into the government so that his family could be safe. And I think that indicates that deep down, Rick is as human as everybody else. So to sum up, I'm really into this show for its sci-fi theme and its brilliant character design. And sadly, I've already watched all the available episodes, so I can't really wait to see what's going to happen next in third season coming up by the end of this year. Alright guys, so here's something that you can do now. If you had any interesting Section 3 questions relating to the topic and you want us to answer for you, please send those questions to the email which can be found in the description box below. And if we've got enough responses, we're going to make another video addressing some of the best questions from you guys coming up next week. And that's the end of the first episode. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to support us so that we can make more free video masters for you in the future. And for the first time, see you next time. This video is sponsored by Izone IELTS Academy. Your result, our pride.